Okay, so this video will be about the location of these 7 EU institutions. And the reason I made this video is because the EU doesn't have, a single capital, so the institutions are spread out across like 4 different cities. And so, probably most people don't know, exactly where all the institutions are located, although, most probably know that it's mostly concentrated in Brussels, but we also have Luxembourg, Frankfurt, and Strasbourg, where these institutions are housed. And so in this video, I will just categorize every institution and show in which cities they are located. Some institutions will even be spread out across different cities, like for example the Parliament, which we will get into right now. Okay, so let's begin with the European Commission, the executive body of the European Union. And they are located in Brussels. This is an easy one, just in Brussels. But then we have the Council of the EU, also called the Council of Ministers, where the ministers meet and vote on legislation. This is like the EU's upper house. And they are located both in Brussels and in Luxembourg, mostly in Brussels. So if you say, Brussels, that's correct. But technically they also have, some meetings in Luxembourg, when they are discussing specific topics, but mostly in Brussels. Then we have the Parliament. And the Parliament is spread out over 3 cities. So the reason for this is, as far as I understand, that the plenary sessions are housed in Strasbourg, and that's because originally the Parliament were in Strasbourg, but then as the Commission and the Council were set up in Brussels, and because the Parliament work a lot with the Parliament and the Council, many members started gathering in Brussels and coordinating with the other institutions, and so much of the Parliament's work, ended up in Brussels instead. And later, this was, officially put into the EU treaty, and so now much of like the meetings and meetings with other institutions and prep work is done in Brussels by the Parliament, but the main plenary sessions where they actually vote is in Strasbourg. And then their secretariats, most of their staff and administrators are housed in Luxembourg, because Luxembourg is also like one of these historical EU cities where many institutions are housed. So the Parliament is spread out over 3 cities. Then we also have the Court of Justice of the EU, and this is like the Supreme Court of the European Union. They, can mediate between different member states, but they also interpret EU law and make sure that it's upheld. And they are housed in Luxembourg as well. Then we have the European Court of Auditors, which is an institution that oversees the EU's economy and makes sure that funds are gathered and spent correctly. So this is like an oversight institutions kind of. And they are also in Luxembourg. And then they have a central bank of the EU, which is, the central bank of every country that is part of the euro area. And they are housed in Frankfurt, and that's, because Frankfurt is a big, economical hub of Europe. Then we have the European Council, not to be confused with the Council of the EU. The Council of the EU is made up of ministers from every member state who vote on legislation, while the European Council is made up of the heads of state or the heads of government of every member state, and they vote on more high-level, long-term goals for the EU. And they are also in Brussels. And so as we can see here, I think that these were all institutions. We see a large concentration of like the most important institutions in Brussels. We have the Commission, the Council, the Parliament, and the Council, the second Council. And that's like the whole legislative process, because the Commission initiates law, and then the Council of the EU and the Parliament approves the law. And for higher level decisions, the European Council makes those. But we can also see that much of the Parliament's work is in Strasbourg, and the Council also sometimes meets in Luxembourg. And then we also have the Court of Auditors and the Court of Justice in Luxembourg. So Luxembourg is also a pretty big, EU city. So, as we can see here, it's mainly Brussels and Luxembourg, but also, Strasbourg and Frankfurt. But that was it. So I hope you liked this video, and I know if I said something that was not exactly correct or if something was confusing, please comment and let me know.